Hey, how you guys doing? It's producer from Brothers Comics. Welcome to the Marvel Hacks. It's our X-Men 97 review, y'all. This is the prelude to the finale. The finale is going to premiere in I don't know, 6 or so hours on Disney Plus. On the line is Brother Beavis. What's happening, man?
Yeah, 6.5. Got to set my alarm for 3 o'clock.
Yeah, funny thing you should say that. Remember Disney? I think Disney. Well, I think maybe Netflix started it first about this. Oh yeah, it's gonna premiere at you're thinking East Coast bias is gonna be
Hmm.
at midnight, and that shit's at 3 in the morning because it's 12 o'clock out there. I know I stayed up for something once thinking it was gonna be at midnight, and they're like, yeah,
Yeah, it
womp
is
womp
on
womp.
midnight. Not your midnight, but
Yeah, so yeah, I for this show I will wind up getting up early enough that I can watch it because Twitter's a terrible place and people will spoil it to be damned. So I want to at least get it out of the way before that happens. So
for
yeah.
like I sleep like an old man, which is not very much.
Mm.
But like Tuesday nights, I sleep like a baby. I'm not gonna sleep anyway. I'll wake up, watch this show.
Yeah.
Beep, beep. What, like what?
Yeah, it's been to be honest with you, in a pre-Twitter era, and we'll kick it really old before we get back to what we're doing here. This was kind of like Chappelle's show for me. Like I would wake up early in the morning. It might have been on Wednesdays too, and wake up and watch Chappelle's show before I would go to work because again, once you got there, it was just over. Like people
Yeah,
were already just spreading everything out. So,
yeah.
all right. So anyway, so let's get started. We're going to episode 7, 8, and 9. And part of the reason that we had done that was there's a 3-part finale, which again comes on at midnight Pacific Standard Time. And then we kind of wanted to let it give out and, kind of breathe a little bit before we get to that. And then we'll come back to the finale. So let's jump in and let me set the show. Recaps for 7, 8, and 9. We're going to end on what we expect in the finale. But most importantly, we need to put a freaking box on how awesome this show is. Like, if you're a long time listener, watcher of us, if you go back before something very important premieres, we usually will be like, yeah, this is coming out. I'm excited for it. I'm not really, I think this might suck. It could range from a variety of things. With this, we were quite apprehensive because it was just like, I don't know. You're digging at our childhood, although we were old ass kind of young
Yeah,
adults
that
at the
was
time.
yeah.
Yeah, so we weren't really
We
children,
were
but you're
childish
picking at
men.
something. Yeah, but you're picking at something that we like. So whenever you bring that back, it's a little apprehensive because you don't know how they're gonna mess it up. I fully can say that we were 100% wrong about this.
Well, I just we weren't right. I mean, I don't. I was. This is one where I didn't really. I was obviously interested in because it was a follow on, but I didn't put a lot of expectation in it.
Mm,
And the titles came out, still didn't kind of really know what it was going to be. We saw that the teaser trailer just gave us them fighting Sentinels, which they do that all the time, and it can be around many plots. So I didn't go in with a lot of expectations, and so I can't say 100% wrong. We
mm.
obviously were not 100% right, but I don't. I think we kind of took a pass on. Maybe I don't know. We were subconsciously not trying to get our hopes up. I
Yeah,
mean, Marvel Studios not exactly on a roll
mm,
leading into this.
yeah,
Their
especially
animation
animation. Yeah,
is okay-ish, but that's I think season two might have been at least a half a season more than What If kind of needed to fill out that rate. So
Mhm.
definitely like not skeptical, just maybe just trying not to get hurt again.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
I put my heart back out there. Yeah,
Hmm.
this has been a welcome surprise for the spring, a good springboard, you know, kind of whereas Marvel is, oh, it's comic book fatigue. Oh, they put out too much stuff. Like all of these things can be true and not true at the same time. It's no absolutes, but I think it would be fair to say that they were kind of treading water here for a bit since the launch of Disney Plus, and this has been giving them, a good shot in the arm for the whole franchise, really, for the whole Disney Plus thing, because I think this has really brought some new eyeballs back that had maybe stepped away for a little bit. So yeah, but you're gonna see it on the last slide. I hate top fives. If somebody asks me their top five of things, it makes me want to like put these five fingers around their throats. I just hate top fives. But we're not gonna do that. But we'll get to it when we get to the end. So let's jump, man. All right, so episode 7, man, it's the death of Remy LeBeau. Nightcrawler's giving the eulogy. We get the recalls of the thieves and assassin guilds there. Belladonna makes an appearance at the funeral. I know that had a Will Stacks hype.
Yeah.
And Rogue is not there. That's probably the biggest part. Any thoughts on Gambit's homegoing ceremony?
Like, on the one hand, it was nice, but on the other hand, it's like all I can hear is thieves kill assassins, assassins kill thieves. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and we do get Father Nightcrawler, Father Wagner here. So,
Yeah.
but it was a good send off.
Yeah, we're gonna
But
talk.
But you're right, Rogue's absence stood out.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about Nightcrawler here because he plays such an important role, and and I'm already goose bumping moment here coming up in episode 8, I guess, and really excited for the idea that this is such an established, giant size X-Men character that they've brought in, who only had a cameo in the original
Yeah.
series, that they've brought in, made an established character, and have fleshed him out in however many episodes more than they ever could, more than I ever could have thought they would have.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, they've done such a good job of keeping characters fresh and close to their comic book personas, which is really difficult to do. So Rogue's not there. She's on the hunt for Gyrick and Trask. She winds up at a Hulk base facility. That was Thunderbolt Ross, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. She winds up there. She kicks complete ass all over there, and then on her next level of hunt, she winds up out and runs into America's top cop, y'all, Captain America, and he pulls that Avengers bullshit line, like, "Look, Rogue, we gotta do this by the book." Mm.
Yeah, I mean, we had seen in the trailer they showed the shield, and I'm like, are we legitimately going to get Captain America? Are we going to get some morph bullshit? But
Yeah.
if he can make a shield in his shape shifting, I think we're already stretching the limits of what his powers ought to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there he was, and I guess on the plus side, like this this is kind of the seeds for like more the Avengers Unity Squad era, where
Mm.
Cap and Rogue are, partners, and like the heavies on his mixed Avengers and X-Men team coming out of AVX and that sort of thing. But he was kind of, I mean, I don't know if they felt like we got to be careful because we already have Cyclops in here,
Mm.
but like he was as Boy Scout or Top Cop or
Yeah.
whatever else that you associate having a broomstick up the ass and just
Yeah.
being right down. Yeah, this was not the best Cap that we've
Yeah.
seen. So, but it's always good to get Cap, but this was not Cap, and this was not the
But
best Cap.
but this was also something that we've talked about before. It's like, oh damn, the mutants is
Mm-hmm.
massacred. Whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just ignored, and they get ignored, and the things that they're going through gets ignored by the other heroes. And Rogue called him out on it for sure. And I thought that was an important part there too. Yeah, it does give you, well, it could be the opposite side of this too. Instead of A Force or this mixed Avengers and X-Men team, you might get your AVX, which is
Ugh.
not good at all.
No, I'm
But
hoping we're not going there, but yeah,
but they established that this is a shared universe. I think that was the bigger part for me.
right.
Like we have this shared universe. We know the Avengers exist now. There's a couple of Stark things like all over these few episodes or whatever. There's a Stark Expo at Bastion's house. There's a Stark Industry sign when they wind up in Madripoor. Like, I mean, it's everywhere. So now at least we know that these universes are pushed together, and that's a good thing too.
Yeah,
And
and this is like, this is Rogue. This is like peak Rogue too, right? This is like her as powerful as she can be,
yeah,
as as purposeful as she can be, And one of our earliest podcasts, one potentially still one of our best, Marvel superheroes or
Hmm.
Marvel Secret Wars, we were talking about how like this is not Rogue yet. This
Yeah.
is like Rogue with no confidence, getting beat by Wrecking Crew,
Yeah.
B-level scrubs. No, this is Rogue, like pinnacle Rogue here.
Yeah. And again, and it'll come up later. I do have to give it up for the voice acting for this lady.
Hmm.
Like she's doing an amazing job, and they're giving them more. And I think
Yeah,
that's probably one of the things too. As we get into this, this show, it's a cartoon. Godoy. It has emotional beats to it
yeah,
that most cartoons don't have, and I think even the good ones that we like, again, don't ask me a top five, but even the ones that we like don't necessarily have the emotional moments that this cartoon
yeah.
does mixed in with all the comic book stuff that you normally like. So,
Yeah, and I think it's that combination of like the faithfulness. So I think it's several things, and maybe this is topic for later, but I think it's the faithfulness to the book. I think it's the skill with which they are mashing all these things together, much like the
mm,
earliest best parts of Game of Thrones, like
hmm,
the efficiency and the density of the storytelling and the way they're putting this together. But you're right, it's like to me these even when it's like stories that we know, whether it's the editing or the sound or the pacing or the just the changes in this the graphics and all the visuals that go into this, like
mm,
it's telling stories in a way that's very familiar, but it is adding to me that emotional aspect of it. And there's just this show is just like feels after feels after feels after
yeah,
feels.
and they know how to get it. And now this, well, actually, it's episode 8. th- that's the first episode that we've gotten through besides the Rogue, or excuse me, the Mojo episode with the first part of Life Jeff. The first one that kind of felt like filler. This one
Mm-hmm.
was fine. 8 feels like filler, but then nine's right on the gas, and
Mm.
we'll see what happens with the finale. We do get the OZT drop here. They're like, oh, what is OZT? And we'll reveal here in a bit too. Uh the United States government ain't shit. Okay. So, Cyclops is trying with President Kelly, and he's like, "Look, man, we just can't keep helping y'all anymore. Like, we just can't do it. It's bad optics. Really, seriously, like it's just bad optics. So I'm doing the best I can. And the tie-in, I guess, for a lot of this is, and I follow the dude that wrote the show or whatever, the showrunner, Bo DeMayo. Again, he got shit canned 3 days before it premiered. Still don't know what happened, but following him on there, you kind of get the sense that over the course of the time of the show was written, this is really kind of following the geopolitical landscape that we are navigating here, primarily within the United States, but all over the world, about things that are happening on one level and then still something that's happening underneath that level which most people don't even want to look and to deal with, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But it's just, yeah, we can't keep helping your kind on this cleanup of Genosha. And so they have to be out on their own, and Jean and
Mhm.
Scott make this decision to fly out to Genosha and, lead the rescue efforts over there. And we see Jean and Scott reconnecting, after Madeline has died in this thing. And then
Do we
Beast.
have a body on that one?
No, but spoiler alerts. I mean, everybody keeps saying she's dead.
Yeah,
Cable's producing that she's dead, so
yeah.
I'm assuming. I mean,
All
well,
right.
yeah. So we do get Beast calling out Trish Tilby on her bullshit. His first quote when they get there is a Mister Rogers quote. Look for the helpers. They're always there, whatever. And then he drops a Martin Luther King quote. About riots are the voice of the voiceless, and then he calls her out on her bullshit, essentially like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have been begging for your tolerance. That was our first mistake.
Yeah.
A complete read of Trish, and I was just like, oh, they may go there. Like, I really think they actually might go there. Where again, this it would lead you straight to Krakoa at some point in time here, but it definitely feels like they're laying the groundwork for
Well, I in episode 9, I'm like, is his fur as blue as it once was? Is it?
it. Oh, Dark Beast.
show.
Yeah, that could be. We get some mutant sightings too. Amelia Voigt is there, and we'll talk about acolytes or lack thereof here
Yeah,
momentarily. So your boy Strong Guy makes it,
yeah.
and then
Even gets to talk.
yeah, and secondary mutation,
Yep.
Diamond Form White Queen makes it again. A complete lift right out of the comic book. Yeah, I, I, again, honestly, there's really so many words that I could say, and I'm just like, man, I'm watching the show, and I'm like, I'm old. How is the show having this kind of effect on me at this point in time? It's a cartoon,
Yeah,
but
but
it's so
it's
well done.
it's for us in particular. It's portraying things that resonated in a different form.
Right.
When our minds were open to new things and we
Mhm.
were figuring out what we liked. Well, we figured out what we liked, and then 30 years later, they gave it right back to us. So,
Yeah, I mean, comparing it to the original series,
hmm.
there is no comparison.
No,
There's no.
other than as long as they were standing still, they didn't tell the same they didn't tell the same volume of stories, but
Yeah.
they definitely gave you the feel of the X-Men and hit on big topics. The first, 3 seasons very solid,
Mm,
but the the animation was is not.
yeah, it's not
They
great.
did
Oh,
not have that Disney bucks behind them.
yeah, and we definitely said this on a previous episode. They spent some money on this shit.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, the animation is top notch to say the least. All right, let's go. All right, so the bad guy gets revealed. All this time, everybody's thinking it's Sinister, Sinister, Sinister. It's not Sinister. It's Bastion. We're gonna get to his origin story here momentarily. Um, the it is alluded to who the villain is by Gyrex, as she had gone to this other facility to pick him up after she had used her powers, I guess. Gone no, she uses her powers on Gyrick or whatever to move on later on. And Trask communicates with the X-Men. It's like, hey, this he's like, it's Sinister, it's Sinister, it's Sinister. He's the one behind all this. Come to Madripoor, and that's going to happen. Sunspot comes out to his mom, very much like if he were gay. We've seen that story played out in like X2 as well. And then they establish the relationship between Rogue and Nightcrawler. They are half brother and sister, correct? Allegedly,
Let's
partially.
see.
Well, she's not really her
No,
mother. Yeah,
they would
yeah.
be. I don't think. I guess step,
Step, yeah,
but yeah, I guess step.
yeah. It's uh, yeah. So, but they established that relationship there, which they've done in the comic books too. And then Bastion is the fully revealed that he offs off Gyrick or whatever because he had, he was done with him and used him for what he was worth. Now we talked about Bastion. We read those books back in the day. He never really made any sort of impact on us as a comic book character. um, like those books don't, oh wow, these are the Bastion books. Let me go dig them out of my freaking thing. That never really happened. So, any thoughts on Bastion as the big bad reveal here? Even though you
N-
know how it plays out.
No, I mean the one thought is like uh, e- either like either this is I'm not even talking about like the history of him, but the portrayal of him. Either this is consistent with what was in the books, and I just don't remember it,
Mm-hmm.
or they just felt licensed to have a new type of character.
Right.
And I, as you know, as the I'm gonna explain my sociopathic megalomaniacal plan to
Mm-hmm.
you as
Yeah.
if it's a business venture that I've been working on for some time.
Yeah.
I'm
That's my
enjoying him
5-year plan.
as a character.
Yeah. My
So
three.
whether they've just done what was there well or just started over, to me he's welcome from Magneto, Apocalypse, even Mister
Yeah.
Sinister that we've just done. So I think that he's been welcome to me.
Yeah, my 300-year plan has been placed, started in order. Yeah,
Right.
uh, I mean, I have no problem with the character, and there's parts of this with his reveal, and then the next episode that are creepy as fuck.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, when we get to the end of this it very much feels almost like a Silence of the Lambs type situation. Where
Oh
he
yeah.
has Magneto trapped there and
Yeah.
he's shaving him. I was like, yo, what,
It
why?
puts the lotion on. It gets the hose again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, it feels very, very weird, and
Yeah.
there, that. I mean, because it's never really explained. Why are you shaving him? Like why? What are you getting out of that? And we never explain how he survived. You know, in Genosha. It's
Right.
never really explained there either. But I mean, yeah, it's really it's really weird. So the X-Men track down Trask in Madripoor. Rogue is there, and she goes rogue. It's like, all right, so tell us everything you know. He's like, I don't know nothing else, man. It was Sinister. He did all this stuff. She's like, I know nothing. She's like, well, okay, and then drops him off the building. And I mean, again, like, could you okay run it back to however many years this shit was on? Yeah, we're not seeing a cartoon where people get dropped off buildings, sir.
No. No.
And,
No, we're not.
yeah, and the team isn't like, oh no, Rogue. It was like, yep, that's what we should have been doing.
They're like, is this what we're doing now? That was messed up. Yeah. It's like restrain her before she kills again. They're like,
Yes.
damn, Rogue, why you?
Oh my god,
Yeah.
I was like, yo, and the way it's shot, like they have her like in that red silhouette from
Mm-hmm.
the lights that are coming from Madripoor. Like, okay, this is what we're doing. This is that Stark Industry sign of Madripoor. And so you think he's dead, but he's not. He pops up and he's really, as we're going to learn, a prime sentinel himself. And he takes out the entire team. Rogue first catches it. And then, you get a big comic book fight where everybody gets a chance to use their powers that is there at that thing. But he takes them all out.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason they get saved is by Cable coming back, plasma grenade. And he winds up taking it out.
Wasn't a plasma grenade. It was an
No.
EMP grenade.
Oh, geez. Come on. Plasma grenade. Yeah. And then, you know,
Yeah.
and though after that, Sinister and Bastion start the plot that they're working together and they're going to reveal their plan. And then we find out Magneto's alive and he's getting shaved. It's
For
like
reasons.
to flying purple people eaters. I'm like, this is creepy,
Yeah.
yo. Like
Yeah.
it made creepy sense, but I was like, what in the world is happening here? It's just I, I have no words.
Yeah.
Honestly, I have no
I mean,
words.
they were like, we need a new villain. Here we go. So
Right.
they got him over.
Yeah, yeah, for
They put the
sure.
Intercontinental title on him, and
Yep,
he's a
he ran
credible
with it.
contender now.
Yeah, and he gonna run with it here in a bit. So then, as he makes the save, that essentially ends episode 7, and then we get to the first two parts of the 3-part finale, which will be coming on here in about 6 hours here. Tolerance's Extinctions, part 1 and 2. We're gonna get a lot of like shout outs or like cameos here, and I'm gonna miss a bunch of them, I'm sure. But yeah, we're gonna get the Summer's reunion tour here. Cable is back. He's back at the mansion. He gets a chance to explain everything that's happened. It's been 300 years. He's been trying to stop this thing that happens in Genosha continually. That's why he wound up showing up there the night that it was destroyed, and he couldn't do it. There's, because Comet's a situation where, a time lock twins, whatever stops him from being able to stop it, and he's going back there and he's really trying to get revenge on the person that killed his mom. I mean, that's basically Cable's whole motivation, and as he's explaining the story, they're like, damn, man, that's messed up. What's going to happen? And he's like, no, it turned into like a human utopia. Like, the mutants essentially became slaves
Mm-hmm.
and did everything for the humans because the humans had gotten primed up as prime sentinels and were able to, the next ladder of evolution, and were able to control the mutants to make this world a better place just for everybody but the mutants, and a, a different level of the dream that nobody would have thought about. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense, I guess. And I understand why Cable is back. Bishop not with him. He's lost somewhere on the time stream. I got a thought about that coming up. But yeah, it's just, I mean, what did you think about that? Yeah, they do the mystics of Cosmona or whatever are the ones that came are talking
The
about this
comic
time
writers.
thing. Yeah, I was like, up, we're tying it all together, people.
Yeah, yeah, and if they shoot now, like I think even like new X-Men, where the originals come back is in play, and in that Hank became a wizard.
Right.
So who knows
Yeah,
what the hell they're gonna do?
it's all over the place.
Yeah, no, I
And
was wondering. I've only, there's Days of Future Past. I don't know if any of these futures are articulated in, because they did Days of Future, they did Days of Present Future, Days of
mhm,
they did like every permutation of past, present, future. They've done those, and so I don't
mhm,
know if this is actually in the book somewhere. But yeah, it's peace isn't exactly what they thought they wanted, or
right,
this isn't how they wanted that peace. So
right.
yeah, I mean it's this is some mutant dystopia is always on the horizon, and this is more like the type of thing you would have seen during the kind of the Mora X series, the Many Lives of Mora. So
We're gonna get
I'm
to
with it.
her in a second too.
Hmm.
And you see Scott and Nathan back together, and that gets revealed in and I think in the last episode, where it's like, oh no, that's baby Nathan, like
Yeah.
he's back, and he knows that that's his parent, or at least Scott is, and he knows Jean is the clone as well, and not his mom. And I think that somebody said, and I don't remember where it was, but there's a hint to the fact that he knows that, was that a Scotty son that they actually went to the future and actually did raise him,
Hmm.
Gene and Cycle. That was like some limited series back when we were reading comic
Yeah.
books. I
It
might have
wasn't
had it
good.
back
I
in the
had
day.
it.
Yeah.
It wasn't good.
Yeah, I think the art was god awful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do remember that. And so yeah, so we're getting set up for what's going to happen next. And this is something like it's a lot of this, and I think we talked about it before.
Did you want to
Let's.
talk about your dystopia cameos? Because you had
Oh, sorry.
Rachel in
Yes.
there.
Yeah.
You had
So yeah, what
Rachel. There
Rachel
was a
Summers?
Polaris drop that
Mm,
I saw. I don't
yeah,
know what else.
yeah. There's other ones here coming up. But yeah, like there's this happens in this show all the time. It's a let's split up gang constantly.
Hmm.
Like you only have like portions of the team in certain places at all times, and this one's exactly that. All right, so Beast is gonna stay at the mansion with Trish Tilby, and he's working on trying to figure out, other parts of Bastion's story. Nightcrawler and Jean are there to care of Rogue, and then the Summers are off to Pittsburgh, excuse me, to go find Bastion's Sentinel facility. Nothing good in Pittsburgh, by the way. Just nothing. And then at Bastion's other facility, Val Cooper is there, and Magneto's there in his black panties,
Shade.
tied to shaved completely. You know what? You start to put all that together.
Wasn't just his
Mm,
face. That's
yeah.
what that's what we're
So,
saying.
yeah. And he's like, she's there, she's been in support of Bastion too, just on the side, but she didn't necessarily know what his overall plan was, And then we get Bastion's origin story, it's like, oh, he was born that way. Nimrod went to the past and infected his father, and it's that seed, son. He got that Nimrod seed. Now, the dude that writes this show, before every episode, he would give you like the people that follow him homework, and he said, "Go back and watch." I think it's One Man's Worth in
Hmm.
season 5, which was their almost version of the Age of Apocalypse. A lot of the Age of Apocalypse characters' designs are in it. Um, and he's saying like when they go to that like Pops Tate's chocolate shop or whatever, there's a couple that's in there, and that couple is uh his parents,
Hmm.
Bastion's parents. And if you go back and you look at it, it's like, oh shit, like for sure it is the mom or whatever. And they were just trying to tie that together because that's kind of a little bit where this hatred of the mutants kind of comes from after Nimrod goes back there and he infects the dad with his seed. And so he is a born technopath, derived from every version of the Sentinel from Master Mode to Nimrod, and that's why he looks the way that he looks. He can talk and listen to machinery, and that's that. Like, is his villain story a little too wild, or that because comics.
So in the comics, I think was it after? I think it was like shortly after, or it was like stuck in by Claremont. There was the idea that this pendant infected somebody, and that's how Nimrod manifested. I
Mm,
think in the cartoon, he came through the time portals with Bishop.
yes. Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, this idea that Nimrod had some humanity because of his host. Yeah. So like
Mm,
I don't know what Bastion's origin is, but yeah. So if you think that if they'd make the claim here that Bastion's like the evolution of every Sentinel plus Nimrod. So
yeah.
I mean Nimrod was the evolution of all the Sentinels, and now he's the seed of
Yeah. It's the sea,
Nimrod's
son.
son. So
Yes.
I guess I mean all right, all
Yeah.
right.
And then when Nimrod became human, he's like, you know what? I got fucked.
So are you showing me the Siege Perilous here on this slide? Is that
That's
what's
what they're
happening?
saying. Yes, that she was wearing the Siege Perilous. It's cut
Hmm.
off on the slide here, but the mom has the Siege Perilous as a
Uh,
necklace or a pendant around her.
so I would want to go back and see what the pendant was that Nimrod got.
Right.
But that definitely does look like the Siege Perilous because that looks like
Mhm.
the one that Rogue got pulled through when she was fighting Master Mold.
Yep.
But
So yeah, there's that. And so now Bastion is the Alpha Prime Sentinel. That's his thing. And so they go to this house in Pittsburgh, and like I said, the show gets creepy.
mm-hmm.
And it gets real creepy with his mom. She's just telling these stories or whatever. And the reveal is obviously the reveal that's coming, that we'll talk about. But before we get to that, random guest appearances, y'all. Like, oh well, that shit came out of nowhere. Like, I mean, and then I'm watching this in the morning with my daughter, and it's just like, okay, whatever. And then I was like, dude, I popped.
Yeah.
Like, how do you not pop? And then Zemo, I popped again. I'm like, what? Whoa, oh,
I wasn't clear whether he had like a conference call on FaceTime or if these were recorded messages or like I didn't know what this was, but yeah, and I'm assuming this is Madam Hydra. Is that who we would think this
I
is? Or
was, yeah, that's what I'm thinking that it's Moira and a different life.
oh,
Yep.
okay.
I think because again, knowing how Moira turns out at the end,
But if it was a different Mora, there would have had to been a time reset,
I mean, I don't know.
right?
Yeah. There's something happening here. And there's other people in the backgrounds too on these
Yeah, I saw
screens that
that
you don't
too.
necessarily know. So,
It could
I mean,
be Fontina,
oh yeah.
Fontaine,
Yeah.
Elaine from
Yeah.
Seinfeld.
Could be. Could be. Yeah. So he does plot and explain this whole situation to Val Cooper. And essentially, and this is why I wanted to touch on here a little bit today. Essentially, his story is basically like, look, we're gonna use white guilt to garner sympathy, and then at the same time turn it completely
Yeah,
to do exactly what we wanted. And again,
yeah.
the parallels that are what is happening in or what is happening in a post-Trump, in a Trump post and post-Trump world are very, very similar. Because essentially what they have done, it was like, and I'll use this as the example. There's a good political here for like 5 minutes. So take George Floyd, where it was something that was so outrageous that everybody saw that you couldn't turn it. Like there was nobody could get a real firm grasp on like, well, okay, well, yeah, but you couldn't, yeah, but it because it was literally in your face, for 6 minutes and 16 seconds or whatever it was. Like that was it. Like everybody knew that was bad, and so there was sympathy that was garnered for that for black people, and there were all these things that were done, which were really not things that black people asked for. It was, could y'all stop killing us? That would be
Yeah.
great. No, no more Uncle Ben, no more Aunt Jemima, no more like all this performative type bullshit. No more, blackface episode. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like all these types of things. Okay, yeah, that's well and fine and good, but by taking those things away or emphasizing or focusing on that, it turned white guilt sympathy into apathy,
Mhm.
and then apathy turned into low rage anger and then dismissiveness. And so it was like, oh well, we can't do this. I'll get canceled. We can't do like all of these things are like that came out of this man getting killed on camera. Like, oh well, you know what? These DIE programs, CRT, like all of these things, and it turned that white sympathy and apathy into anger. And then there's a group of people that appealed to those people, Trump, and made them feel a part of something.
Yeah.
This is that.
Yeah.
It's 100% that. It
I
was like, oh
mean,
my God, Genosha was so terrible. Oh my God, everybody feels bad. Oh yeah, okay. We rushed that in there, and then the things that came out of that, like, hey, wait a second, they're being treated as equals. I didn't really
yeah.
want that.
But
And
the
then,
psychology applies on other things too, like the original support, and just like we watched what was going on in Ukraine
mm,
for like when and now it's like, oh, y'all still doing that?
yeah,
I
word,
mean,
that's still going on. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I don't think I don't think it's everyone that takes this ride, right? And everyone doesn't go from white guilt to apathy
Mhm.
to let's join up, let's become sentinels.
Right.
But it's like
Mm,
you subdue the people that aren't susceptible to that, so that they're
mm,
not upset for the people that are susceptible to it when they do
right.
rise up. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a winning formula.
Yeah.
and and if
You
you could
numb
go
them.
back and like you can always find like old comics where like you'll read stuff and you're like, this sounds like a Trump speech.
Right.
Oh, because it sounds like the Nazis or whatever. Like that's comics have reckoned like that. Number one, this script isn't new,
Right.
but it just plays out in different forms of technology now. But
Right.
like the basic psychological pieces of it are unchanged and still
Right.
very, very dangerous.
Yes. And now like, you know what? Dang, like we turn this thing now out of hate the mutants, or whether it be mutants or immigrants or blacks or whatever.
Mhm.
And now we're in the dial-up chat rooms that they quote on here, as opposed to, we don't have dial-up anymore.
Yeah.
Where they were able to get into these rooms and meet with like-minded people that love to hate. It's like, man, you appeal to humans, like scaredness, like appeal to them, like make them fear everything, caravans, whatever it is, like they're taking your jobs, affirmative action, like we appeal to that. And like, you know what, that appeals to me because I am like this minority person that I believe to be, or going to be. You know what, I will put myself in a bat and take some
Yeah.
techno organic
Yeah.
viruses and fight these motherfuckers
Yeah.
off. Like it's that from A to Z. It seems like a lot, but it really isn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like and he got them there. Like this is almost a Zemo like plot in the Avengers
Mhm.
movies.
Mhm.
It's like, you know what? I can't take y'all on by myself, but I can fuck everything up
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
muddy the waters so much that y'all will just do it myself. And
Yeah.
I brilliant writing. I feel fairly certain that this was done on purpose, but I think for the most part, this is still a cartoon. People are like, just entertain me and get me to the parts where the comic book fights are.
Right.
And speaking of that, comic book fight, y'all. Uh, OCT activate form of Prime Sentinels. Okay, this is where I got completely hyped in episode 8.
Yeah.
I went nuts because the Prime Sentinels do get activated, and after his mom does her freaking freaky bit, and and then she turns into a Prime Sentinel, and they, a bunch of them, like his whole town is turned into Prime Sentinels, and they get off on this chase against the Summers. But then back at the mansion, Trish is turned too, and she starts fighting off against Beast, and then Morph comes in as Juggernaut, which I didn't put in here, and then there's the battle, and it's Wolverine and Nightcrawler,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna say it's the second greatest comic book fight I've seen, because the first one's going to become here in episode 9.
Yeah.
But I mean, and then like, man, Wolverine's been put on the sidelines, man. He ain't done
Yeah.
shit. Hello, he's
You
back.
finally got some robots to fight.
Exactly. He did. He did. And he fought them very, very well.
Yeah.
And seeing him and Nightcrawler fighting together, that's right out the comics, man.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was great. I mean, they as much damage as they're inflicting, they're not really slowing them down though.
Right.
That's the
Yeah.
hard part.
Yeah. And the Nightcrawler with his swords. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just like, dude, I, I was so hyped.
That's like the one good thing that Excalibur did was put a weapon in Nightcrawler's hand, right?
Yes.
Like
To
he
not
probably
beat
did some
cops.
corny ass fencing, but once he like got associated with that, like then he could go from doing 6 damage with his punches to doing like deadly damage with the sword. So
Yes. And they take them on, and then there's a bit in there where he teleports
oh
with
yeah,
Wolverine, and like you get to see it from Wolverine's perspective.
yeah,
Who thinks of this?
yeah. No, that was
Like,
sweet too. It's like, wait, what's it? Oh, okay. Yeah.
I
No,
mean,
that was
yeah, it took
awesome.
me like a rewatch to understand what was happening. I was like, oh, okay. Like, I mean, this is I,
Yeah,
I
and
got
you kind of glossed over too, but like the Sentinels were all activated when Beast scanned for him, right?
yeah,
So
hmm
like he turns on Cerebro, they're looking for these things. Oh, and we also missed the part where they were talking about how they were going to use the technology, and they're like, "We'll just use these mutant collar technology." And Storm's like,
Oh no, that's the next
"Oh,
episode.
oh
Yeah,
no,
next
my bad."
episode. Yeah,
All
yeah,
right,
yeah,
all
yeah.
right,
Yeah. But yes, yeah, there's a bit
that
about
was
that.
hilarious.
Yes. And so yeah, do you have this fight? Wolverine's fighting in the sky, he's slashing into
Mm,
everything and everybody. I mean, and then the Summers are fighting off too, and they get their full comic book landing thing. They wreck the the Blackbird.
another Blackbird.
Another the third one, according to Gene. Gene's trying to mother Cable, which
Yeah,
is
puts
like a
his
fun
seatbelt
bit.
on.
Yes, and Cyclops has a Porsche, and then you see them team up and fight together, which is something you one of our biggest complaints about the X-Men movies is that you never get to see them to like fight together like as a team. It's
Mhm.
just always like kind of this one-on-one bit, and you finally get a chance to see that. I can't say enough good things about that part of it.
Yeah,
Just great. I mean,
y-
it was awesome.
and you get the Cyclops tunneling through rock that we've
Yeah.
seen at various times and in various
hmm
cartoons. Yeah, it
Yep.
was great.
And he still has this confidence. It's gonna wane here a little bit when we start episode 9, but
Mm.
like it's there. Like I mean, all the parts that you like about these characters, they've stayed so true to them. They didn't make Cable such a
Yeah,
dick like they did in the first one. It was just like he's kind of always been that way, but he's also been a hero too. They've nailed the characterization of these people so well. I it's just it makes it very hard to go back and watch not just the original, but any incarnations of any X-Men things that have been placed out really ever.
yeah, yeah.
And it's I mean I got no words, man. I mean
I
I got a
mean,
lot of words.
the animation quality is, I think, on par with the Wolverine and the X-Men show, which
Mhm.
almost got to greatness. But a lot of that was saddled with trying to stitch together storylines that I think kind of more closely tied into the movies, which had fizzled
Mhm.
out by that point,
Yeah.
or kind of rehash stuff we'd already seen. So, but yeah, no, this I think this is the best X-Men product we've got ever,
Ever. All right.
ever.
Ever. All right. So who let the Magneto out, man? Woof, woof, woof. So as all of this is going on, Val finally gets, I mean, again, this has to be revealed that this is Mystique in episode 10. There's no chance
Oh,
that this is not
eh,
her. There's no chance that this Val's not Mystique. But
I didn't think about that.
oh yeah. And so she allows Magneto to escape. I always write Magento on these notes, by the way. Um, it's just it's become like a thing. So after she gets captured by Bastion or whatever, he kind of thought that, and she runs Charles's dream essentially, like he was just being naive.
Yeah.
Like all this thing that we've been trying to do is just not going to work. And she drops the line, Magneto was right.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
that's it's the absolute hypest moment of all time. Magneto's out in his pink, his black drawers, and he goes and he sets off an EMP like on the Earth, which shuts down all the Prime Sentinels, and it's just like the scene right out of X-Men 25, man. Like I'm watching this and I'm like, this is what they're about to do.
Yeah.
And at some point, did you like, oh, I think they're about to do this? Were you pulling the comic book out of your thought pattern
N-
there?
I think it's more in the next episode,
Okay,
but
yeah.
I'll also say this scene with the rings on the planet was the most X-Men 92 animated scene we've got so far.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
So,
understood. They
yeah.
do drop the Magneto Protocol's name in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
next episode too. So again, you are pulling from there. And again, I don't know how old this dude is writing this show. But I'm gonna give a guess. He's probably 15 to 20 years younger than us. So that means he's reading this if these are his favorite books, which is kind of what he alluded to. So he's reading that what he's like 13, 14, 15 years old
Mhm.
when these are coming out. So I'm sure they left a massive impression. Because
Yeah.
again, if you've listened to us for a while, you can go back. We reviewed every single one of those books of that first run up to X-Men 25. We reviewed every single one. And there's some bad books in there, y'all. Whew, Extinction Agenda. Like there's some bad books. But on reread, they're still bad, but it still was like a fresh thing of where the X-Men was coming there once they did the relaunch and then, the changes with the creative team, the Claremont gone and excuse me, the image people on and then they're off. Like, I mean, it's a interesting time for the X-Men comic books. But this was a huge moment for this episode and, for those comic books. Okay, and so we get some more cameos here. Silver Samurai, that was dope. I popped on Spider-Man though.
And this is officially the Spider-Man animated series Spider-Man? Is that what
Yes.
we've been
And
told
they
now?
use the animation from there though. Like it's completely
Yeah.
different from the animation from the rest of the show. They use the animation from that Spider-Man. And
Yeah.
so I pop. My daughter's like, what's going on? I was like, that's what trying to explain this stuff. And she's like, what? I'm like, there was it's on Disney Plus. Just watch it.
The
It's on
neogenic
there.
recombinator.
Yeah, and then I was starting to watch it and I was like, oh yeah, this is maybe not my favorite version of this show. I mean, it has its moments for sure, but yeah. And then of course, since things are starting to get better, guess who shows back up or get worse, and to make things worse?
Charles.
Yes, yeah. Again,
Charles.
if you're a long time listener, every time he shows up, man, nothing good happens. He's
No.
awful. He should stay dead or off.
Everybody grows as a team, as individuals when he's gone. And as soon
Mm-hmm.
as he comes back,
Yep.
so,
Oh, yeah. And he to me, my X-Men's, and like, hey man, you're late.
yeah.
Cyclops already copyrighted.
Yeah,
I
he's the what now, the third person to say that in this show?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. And again, we're a run Charles here in the next episode. But I mean, again, a great episode. Like, like, oh, okay, when I watched it initially, I was like, this is kind of filler or whatever, I guess. But no, okay, I guess it was making sense after you watch the next one.
Yeah. I was hoping we would have got a Colossus cameo
Yeah.
when they went to
Well,
Russia. Now I'm starting to wonder that we're not going to get a Colossus in this.
mm, well, I think
And
Rogue takes Colossus's spot here.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's that too.
Yeah. All right. Tolerance is Extinction Part 2, Electric Boogaloo, y'all. This is this is episode 9. I knew shit was up when Wolverine did the voiceover on the intro. I was like, that's interesting. Because with the protocols being enacted and then him using that EMP, I was like, they're not gonna do what I think they're gonna do. Like there's just
They
because
can't do the thing.
they can't do the thing because I'm thinking this is a Saturday morning cartoon and it's a 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard cartoon.
Can't have the children looking at this at 3 in the
Yes,
morning.
exactly. I'm like, wait a second, they're not gonna do this, but I will get to it. So yes, Charles being back brings back everybody's anxiety, man. He was gone and he comes back, everything is off. We do, and again, his homework was to us like, hey, go watch Pride of the X-Men because we do get Charles with his, Argyle. I don't know what pattern that is. He's back in that chair, the non
Burberry.
yeah, robotic chair. He's in that, and we'll call back to the uniforms here momentarily. Magneto, and now, are we gonna call this? Is this Avalon or Asteroid M? It's Avalon in the comic books, right? I think.
Mm, Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so
I
because I
think it's
think
Avalon.
Asteroid M was earlier, and I don't know
Okay,
what happened to it.
yeah,
I think he might have. I think if I recall correctly, it was Asteroid M, and then like if he rebuilt it and reglossed it Avalon. But
okay, yeah. Charles tries to explain himself to Scott, like I gave him the school so y'all could have freedom. Like, how does that make any sense? You
yeah,
gave the school. I mean, his reasoning made absolutely no sense.
yeah,
Like none
he
of it.
sucks.
And yeah, he does.
And Scott
Charles,
was not having it.
he
Scott was
was not
like,
having it at all.
yeah, whatever.
Like, I always wind up back here. Like, he's like, well, me too. It's like, fuck, it's your house and your school. Why do I have to be here? So yeah, it was just a mess.
And I want to talk about these homework assignments real quick.
Go
Like,
ahead.
I feel like the homework assignment is like, go read some damn comic books and learn. Like if you have to, so Easter eggs and cameos are cool, but if you have to spoon feed it, like
Mm,
if you have to be spoon fed to enjoy this, and like you just don't know the X-Men are, go read some goddamn comic books.
understood. Counterpoint though, and I sent you the picture when I was watching it with my daughter. So what's that? 88 probably the X-Men, not even
Mm-hmm.
86,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
Like, I mean, if you're 30, you have no idea probably even what that is or it exists. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But if you're watching this and it's like, oh, I didn't know there was a pilot episode of a X-Men cartoon or whatever, comic book isn't gonna help you there.
yeah,
But again, having said that, we're getting to it in a second. When they put on the costumes or uniforms from the Pride of the X-Men, I popped too. I'm like, that's that. It's the freaking Leonardo DiCaprio meme, man. It's like, oh,
yeah,
I know what that is.
yeah,
So they're giving us that that part. Again, we talked about this before the show came. Like, who's this show for?
yeah. But that's not the Pride of the X-Men uniforms. Those are the class giant size X-Men uniforms.
No,
That's
it
like
isn't.
just
Isn't Cyclops' uniform from Pride of the X-Men? He's got the different visor on.
I
Pretty
mean,
sure.
that's classic Cyclops.
Yeah, fine. Storm and Forge return after the Earth is gone, whatever. And you have to do the science on the fact, like, hey, there's only 12 hours left of this shit. I'm like, y'all are doing a lot of talking then. Y'all want to pick this pace up? Because, yeah, we were a little bit.
Well,
So
in theory, if he destroyed the magnetic field, then they're being bombarded by radiation and they're all dead anyway. So
noted. Well, uh, unstable molecules in the costume.
oh yeah, that's I forgot. I
So,
forgot they do have
yeah.
unstable molecules.
So yeah. So what are we gonna do with Magneto? Charles, the dream is still there. Like in Charles's mind, whatever we got to do, we just got to get him to change his mind. It'll be fine. He's just got to turn the power back on.
Just a
Control alt
big
delete. Yes,
misunderstanding.
exactly. We still got to get along perfectly here. And in Storm, it's like we face it like a family. And then this thing with, again, in the comic books, in the early parts of the comic books, like Aurora and Jean's relationship, they are very close. And then post, after she gets the Phoenix powers or whatever, it's less so obvious, obviously. But they really established that here as them being sisters.
Yeah.
I mean, they're, if whatever you feel about that relationship in the comic books or whatever, they've definitely established it here. We get the blue and gold team drop. Oh, pop!
Yeah.
It's the blue team. Yeah. I mean, and yeah, and then what you said, no neutralizer technology. Force and Peace are like, yeah, we're gonna die. Boom,
uh
thunders and lightning.
no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we won't be doing that. Yeah, again, and Storm looks great. That the design of the costume, the animation.
Yeah. And the
About
line they in this scene, you got the line they drop like "Make them weather your mind, sister, and mind your
yeah,
weather." I don't know if
yeah,
that's from a book, but that was a great line.
yeah. I mean, I just, dude, what? Again, goosebumps just talking
Mhm.
about this, and I'm like, ah,
I think you've undersold the degree Magneto just shows up and runs them down.
we're getting there.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're
Oh,
not
yeah,
there.
this pics are from later.
Yeah, it's right here. No.
All
No.
right.
This
All
is
right.
it.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Now we go.
yes, the asteroid comes from the sky as Rogue. Well, Charles is talking to Rogue about, like, Remy, maybe he should have been buried here,
He
and she.
was all but like, you need to take Remy's name out your damn mouth. Pow!
Yeah, it's
You
pretty
don't know
much.
shit about a Remy.
Yes, he was like, "Look, if you had traded us as people instead of freaking whatevers," and it was like, "Ooh, boy!" And again, think about it. Again, comic book wise, you know, Rogue was with Charles and whatever when she joined the team, and then he was gone, and she
Yeah.
was, without him for all that time, so she didn't really have that established
Yeah.
relationship with Charles as the other people do. So
Right.
whatever. So yes, Magneto comes down. It's like, look, man, your dream sucks. I tried that shit. Yeah, I
Oh,
tried that. And I had to watch Leech die in my arms
yeah.
because I tried to sell him this bullshit.
His brain
Enough.
turned into whatever. Yeah.
Yes, he's like, enough. And
Yeah.
it was like, yeah, y'all can come up with me, like up in the sky here. Everything's gonna be dope up here, And Rogue is the one that reads Charles even more. She's
Yeah.
like, man, what? We gotta see who's gonna be next to die.
Yeah.
Gene, been there, done that.
Yeah.
Mark was dead 30 minutes into the show. I'm like,
more
he
more like
was.
22.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, he was dead. Yeah, I, and again, she takes the Colossus spot. Again, if you haven't read a damn comic book, as Brother Beaver said, read a damn comic book. Colossus is the one that takes that spot and follows Magneto after the death of Ilyana from she had the legacy virus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah.
Well, and he also had brain damage at the time because of the executioner.
Oh, that's right. Because he was that
He
when he
got
couldn't change back?
I think he had like a dent in his head or some shit like
Okay.
that.
Yeah. So yeah, it was, and I put that line in there, but I didn't add the thing. It was like, it's just like that day in the bar, like where he's talking about Genosha being destroyed,
Yeah.
and Charles talking to him, like, like he's like, I'm telling you, this is what's going to happen, and Charles is giving this bullshit in this dream, and that's what happens right before Legion Quest, when like Legion comes back in time and winds up killing Charles. So it makes it interesting where we're going
Yeah.
with this possibly too, and then he's like, get off this fallen pigsty planet, decide, my X-Men,
Yeah.
and he name checks them like they're my team now. You've been gone off with your bird queen. It's just like, golly, like, enough. Like, you can't be calling me old friend and still be running me about my chicks, bro.
Just because I
Cool.
kicked a bird one time. I'm a bird
Yeah,
fucker now.
exactly. So
and Rogue had, you could see, like they show the early scenes, Rogue has Remy's jacket on. You
yeah,
can't
and she
really see
gives
the outfit.
Charles.
She throws it off. She's got like her original villain outfit.
Yes.
They've got Birdo and the New Mutants outfit, which they suck, but that was a cool uniform on him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So
him using his powers looks
right.
amazing. It
Yes.
always has, even from the beginning. And it's like they're the two that wind up going off with her. And Storm's like, "Don't leave your family." It's like, what family?
Where were you, girl? Yeah.
Yeah, you was
Excuse me,
gone. Yeah,
none of
yeah,
y'all were on Genosha.
yeah, exactly. Oh my god! Again, the emotional impact hits like completely knocking it. I mean, they're just knocking it out of the park in this whole bit. And then so when they go off, and my initial thought, I was like, they're not gonna do what I think they're gonna do.
They can't do the thing.
This is Saturday morning cartoon. They're not gonna do that shit.
There's children watching this at 3
Yeah,
in the morning.
at 3 in the morning. Yeah. So the battle lines are drawn, y'all.
So you tricked me. There's that picture again. That's what you.
Yeah, I did. I'm sorry. Teams are the battle lines are drawn here. One team's gonna go out. Oh, I did not. And I posted this to Twitter, and some people didn't catch it, but I did, and it's only because we talk about the characters so much. So before they decide what we're going to do, like, all right, so we're gonna one group's gonna go to Brazil or whatever, the secret embassy base or whatever. We're gonna go do that, and another team's gonna go here. Then we're gonna go to Muir Island, get the tech because the Shi'ar has that or whatever. They're like, oh yeah, Nightcrawler's just gonna teleport us. Like, hold up, yeah. Let me break out my Marvel Universe Power book.
Yep. They
Yeah.
might have dropped with the magnetic disruption of the Earth. Maybe Nightcrawler's powers will get us all the way there. They could have. they could have explained this away if they tried,
So
but
let's see, New York to London, or what, England of some sort. Hmm,
Scotland.
Scotland. Okay, so a solid 7 hours on a
Eight.
plane. Solid 8. He can teleport 2 to 3 miles by himself, sight only, but he's teleporting a whole bunch of people and equipment. Got it. So when I was looking this up online, they had said in some of the other books he'd been bamfing like planets and shit. So it's been
Oh
retconned. Yeah.
yeah, he like bamfed the moon
Yeah.
in
Okay. So
the
if that's the
X-Men
case,
Red.
then it doesn't make any sense. But he wasn't doing that shit in 1998. That's for sure. So yeah. So I thought we got probably the X-Men uniforms, whatever. And we do get this line in there that Scott throws in, when he's talking to Cable. He's like, "Oh, you're gonna do? Be careful? No, go give him hell." And like, "Oh yeah, put this uniform on. What do you expect? Black leather? Well done. Just well done. Well done. What are
Yeah,
you
you
doing?
don't have to take the comic book out to tell a
Yeah,
comic book story.
exactly. Like, stay faithful to the stuff that's there. You can't do all of it. We understand that. And I think comic book fans do too. You can't do it all. But there's a good, or at least in good comic book stories, there's a good story underneath there that you can build out on and work from. So, whatever. Bastion's powers are unaffected by the EMP because he's a technopathy, so he can still talk to the machines. So, all right, whatever. And it's comic book fight, y'all. So the one team goes out. He gets the regular looking Sentinels to make this attack. And then I don't know if you paid attention to that. The theme music is playing in the background, but it's the updated theme music, and it's just playing like
Oh
consistently
yeah.
through the fights. Oh yeah, and it's like, oh, I can hear it in the background because I'm listening on headphones or whatever. Morphs into the Hulk. I popped.
Morph Smash.
Yeah, more Smash. Oh, and they did. The X Men is woke. When Rogue did read them, she's like she did refer to Morph as they.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
heard that they finally
yeah,
dropped that in
yeah.
the
And I
main
was like, oh,
sequence. Yeah.
okay. Now, and again, one of our most listened to bits about us talking about the X Men being woke on the YouTube, like 400 some odd listens on there. Y'all are crazy. This show is completely woke. It always has been. The comic book too. Like, you missed it. You just didn't care. Like, you didn't understand. Those people now cheered for Luke Skywalker and now cheer for the Empire. But anyway, don't even know that they're cheering for the Empire. So yeah, Jean and Sinister have one of the best comic book animation fights of all time.
Mhm.
They have redone, and we've talked about Sinister on this show on multiple occasions about him being a little bit more. We've called him sassy. He's a little sassy. He ain't sassy here. They've reworked him to the fact that, like, oh, this is a credible villain. He's not just doing machinations. He's doing those too, but now we got a chance to see him fight, which we never got to see in the original series, other than shooting blast off.
Right. Right. And I don't think this shadow ability is comic accurate, but
Yeah,
it makes for an interesting effect, and it's more
right.
like this. They've had that scene in the in the credit opening credits with him and Morph
Hmm.
since the start. So yeah, it was pretty sweet.
Yeah, and then Jean holds her own.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, th- think about who they've recovered from the original series. Jean was constantly passing out,
Yeah.
falling down and fainting.
Yeah.
Scott was consistently just yelling Jean,
Yep.
and they've rescued these characters and
Storm was
established.
Storm was always like claustrophobic.
Yeah, I'll take win, and only
Yeah,
saying like
saying
phrases or
speeches, yeah.
whatever. It was just they've developed these characters so much and built them out over
Mhm.
freaking 9 episodes.
Yeah.
Like, do you have difficult? Maybe it ain't that difficult. It's just that they choose to not do it in other shows. I even more, for Pete's sake. I mean, they have all built them out. It's
Yeah.
just whatever. But yeah, and Sinister taunts her. He's like, "Yeah, I know everything about you, and I can tell you when I switched you and when your memories start and where hers began. Like, all of these things, which leading back to when she was talking to Kurt, Like I remember all of that stuff
Yeah.
about being pregnant with Nathan, like everything about it, but it wasn't her.
Yeah,
And
and because the end of the Inferno, I believe Madeline tries to kill herself, but I think Jean ends up absorbing her psyche. So I think there was at least a period they've put Jean through so many ringers. I don't know where
yeah,
she ever ended up, but there was a period of time where she essentially merged because she absorbed the consciousness of Madeline, which is where we are now.
okay, okay, yeah. I just yeah, this was a really cool comic book fight. But the thing between Sinister and
Hmm.
Marvel Girl was just great, you
And
know. And
the
again,
and the green costume is all time.
oh yeah, and the cosplay, by the way. Yep, yeah. Just to let that out there. But Sinister always has a plan, and there's a little switch out there with Bastion, like, oh, we got to do something, and where it's Morph trying to trick Bastion, but Sinister wants Nathan. That's it. He wants Cable
Yeah.
because he's, he knows how powerful that he is, and he's been infected by the red diamond that he put inside of him. He did that to his mother as well. Kind of a throwback to the comic books that we read that much longer ago too, because that was for me a more of a modern comic thing. How Sinister was like infecting and taking over people, and then you get a chance to see Cable uses telekinesis. Like, yep, this is a really powerful dude.
Right.
And he, goes after her under his power. Jean gets attacked, and in the attempt to try to, save herself, pulls Scott into it from the, their psychic rapport, and then he gets to see Jean get killed again.
No way.
Yes,
No way.
yes, yes. Well, the opening credits has that her
Yeah,
coming
they've
back
had
as
that. Yeah.
Phoenix, like almost in every single one. So
Yeah.
some version of that we're gonna get. So I'm not mad at it, because if they do it like this, it'll be much better than the one that we did get, which was essentially a pull 100% from the comic book. All right, so there's that, and then on Avalon, y'all. So to quote the old Richard Pryor bit, that's when I put my hand on my knife, because as they're going back and forth, now we have this huge battle on Avalon. And it's right out of the comic books. It's like, we got to get to him. We got to change his mind. We got to get that helmet off so I can, whatever, get into his mind and convince him, take over his powers to turn the lights back on. Like all of these things that Charles is trying to do, and Rogue and Wolverine get into a tussle, and Gambit or Jubilee and Roberto, are doing a firefly fight or whatever, throwing lights and hands at each other. And, when it finally gets to that point where Scott's like, oh, we have to do this, he stops it. He's like, wait, like we need to give the other team more time to get their part of their plan done. And then, Magneto takes that opportunity of weakness to kind of go back off, pushes Charles out. After Charles was talking his stuff about the dream, he's like, would you just shut
Yeah,
up?
I've been dying to say these two words to you. Shut up.
And then, when Magneto feels that he has the upper hand, Wolverine snicks him right through the freaking chest, stomach, whatever you want to say. And it's like, with blood. This is not a Saturday morning cartoon, folks.
Mm-hmm.
It's not.
And he gives
Right.
him the line from the season finale of season 1, which was, "The brave are always the first to die."
Oh,
As
okay.
as they fly off, and then Magneto eventually joins them when they go to fight Master Mold. That line is
Okay.
from the finale of season 1 of the original
Nice.
series.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I think they're definitely about to do what I think they're about to do. And, in the books, it's like it starts with a tug,
Mm-hmm.
and they do it. Magneto turns, and then they start to get the great animation of him pulling the freaking adamantium out of Logan.
And he's like, I'm glad we can finally, I'm glad we're finally done with this and I can
Yes,
end it.
yeah.
Like,
And again, if you're on YouTube, you can see the direct pull from the comic and from the animation there. I mean, they definitely kept it comic book accurate, I I was shook. That was a because I was expecting it and not expecting it. That was an end game moment, or an Infinity War moment.
Yeah, Infinity
Everybody
War,
goes
like,
to
yeah,
dust.
yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
was like
You
I
know this is
was
gonna be bad. I didn't know it was gonna be
just
this
be
bad.
that. Yeah, I was like, oh, like
Yeah,
as we watched those '92 cartoons, at no point in time did we ever think like, oh, you know what? They could tell this particular story. They could tell this particular story. I mean, they tried to tell some stories that we enjoy. Like there's a Proteus story in there. It's awful, but there is one. You know, it's like, oh well, this is going to be a story they can never tell. They're not going to do that to Wolverine. He's a star of the show. Like all of those types of things, we knew that we would never see something like that. Now everything's open, and I was shook. When did
yeah.
you know that they were going to do this?
Well, I think for sure. Well, so I'll say for sure when Rogue joins him, I'm like, okay, so she's the Colossus. Like she
Hmm.
definitely took his role. So I knew they were I knew they were going to this portion of the story and they would be fighting him on Asteroid M. I want to say I wasn't convinced until the claws came through Magneto.
Yeah. Okay.
And at that point, like, okay, well, that's somebody's ass.
Yes. Yeah.
But to me, it wasn't that they did it; it was how they did it.
Hmm.
And again, something we know of almost as a trivia fact, like X-Men 25 is where Magneto pulled the adamantium out of Wolverine.
Hmm.
No, the again with the feeling of this show that makes you feel like Wolverine's like almost anxiety as he realizes what's going on,
Hmm.
and then to finish on a still frame and
Hmm.
go dark and play sad music,
Yeah.
I was like, they did the thing.
Like,
I couldn't believe it.
yeah.
I couldn't believe how well they did it, I think is
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, because you could have Saturday morning cheesed it off and done like something, oh, I separate the skeleton from his body, but push it back. They could have done something really goofy. Like, no, they did it the way that it was done.
Mhm.
And it's like, oh, okay. How do you come back from that? And so how do you tie in to what's next? Because there's really only two options here. Honestly.
Yeah.
It really is.
I
Bishop's
mean,
missing.
yeah, I
Bishop's
mean,
missing.
you could
Go ahead.
generalize like, oh yeah, yeah, it seems like that seems to be a big part of it. You could generalize from Age of Apocalypse to like some other timey-wimey stuff,
Hmm.
but I mean, yeah, you literally either Bishop comes in and stops him
Hmm.
or Magneto does it, but Bishop then comes in and we replay, we reset the map and
Hmm.
episode 10 is an alternate version of episode 9 with
Hmm.
a different outcome. But yeah, I mean, it seems like we're getting one or both or some combination or something at least very similar to these two lines.
Yeah, I mean, if you read a freaking comic book, this
Yeah.
Magneto's about to get his mind wiped by Xavier, and this sets off him on again. They retcon the story poorly from what they were doing it from before, but he finally just breaks down from trying to be in control all the time and just lets go to his worst instincts, and it gives us
Yeah.
Apocalypse. Now, again, the Apocalypse story is tied into our heroes reborn and all of that kind of stuff, but you've also established a world where we know those heroes exist too. So
So
I don't think they want to mix those worlds together too much, but that is something that's out there as well.
so a third option, um, which would I think I don't know. I mean, it would be a way to proceed, but a third option would be, um, you know, Onslaught was some deep, dark part of Xavier's inner mind, which is essentially the same thing that Cassandra Nova was.
Mm,
So
yeah.
instead of Onslaught, we could get Cassandra Nova.
Mm,
Um, but I don't know.
yeah.
That seems kind of flat. It would make
Yeah.
sense. It would actually potentially makes it would make make these things make sense together, but
Mm,
it would be kind of flat compared to the alternatives. But I think Onslaught as it is difficult because you're right. Like he was defeated by the heroes pouring themselves into it, and
right.
unless the heroes are the original X-Men, and then we get the new X-Men from the past, and we tell those stories.
Right.
I don't know how that works.
I
I
mean,
mean, they it feels to me like they showed that picture of Angel, who got killed in this, as far as
mhm,
we know, and Iceman, who's yet to appear. It
mm,
feels like they showed that picture an awful lot for them to not
yes.
do something with the original team.
Yeah.
And I hadn't really thought too much about it, but it seems to me like, if
Mm.
the so-called new X-Men could appear here at some point too.
Ah. uh, I it feels very much like we're getting one of these, and
Hmm.
now it becomes when is this going to happen? The rumor on the internet is that this has all been done already. Like season 2 is done. Isn't
Hmm.
the can done? But the premiere is like, I have no idea. And I was
I'm
just like,
assuming
well,
it's a year away.
yeah, and that's what my daughter thought too. I don't know if it's a year. So you know how normally it's like, hey, they take this off, and then there's like something that comes like within 4 to 6 weeks afterward. And I didn't really see anything on the schedule like that for the MCU. I know they got a lot of Star Wars stuff on Disney Plus or whatever. I think Agatha Harkness is in September. There's no Marvel movie at all for the summer. So
This
you have,
summer is Deadpool and Wolverine
like
in
I
July.
said, there's no Marvel movie for the summer. Ugh,
Nice.
yeah.
They did announce today Daredevil and something
Yes.
else in 2025.
Yeah, I did see that
Can't
too,
remember what
and
the
that's
other thing
fine.
was.
And that's fine. But I'm just like, okay, here's the worry. You worry about where this is headed. Like, how do you let's get to the last slide? Like, what do you do with this? Like, I I don't know how you follow this up. Even if they flub the landing today, which I don't think they will,
Mhm.
but even if you flub it, you have a 9 out of 10, fairly solid. If you want to be really judgy, 8.5. Solid episodes, like really good, rewatchable, solid episodes, hours of entertainment. How do you even consider following this up? Like, I have no idea. I mean, I hate top fives. I really, really do. But this is the best Marvel adaptation, and it ain't five.
Yeah.
It is not even close to five. I told y'all, I think this, of all the adaptations that we've gotten, this may be the best thing, live action and animation, that MCU, Disney, Marvel, whoever has ever done. It's very hard to think of anything that's better than it.
Yeah. And the striking thing to me too is this would not be better if it was live action.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And
And this is,
so
yeah, go ahead.
if this is, you know, if if we could recognize that comics can or cartoons can be a medium for telling these great stories from the comics, which is also a viable medium, and then just increase the fidelity of these stories and the
Right.
characters and the animation that we're getting by doing more animated products. Like, what if I think they legitimately try to tie into the MCU,
Mm,
but it's secondary stories with secondary characters, and it's not none of it's canon, none of it matters.
mm,
But can you start to fill in the blanks between between movies? Can you extend franchises that you don't have the actors for and tell
mm,
stories that stand along the the rest of the movies? And I've said this 1,000 times, like Fantastic Four is another property that would be way better as a cartoon because
yeah.
you can do the negative zone, you can do the intergalactic stuff, you
Yeah.
can do all the crazy science. um and so but it's not, it's not going to make you $1 billion at the box office, and
Yeah,
it clearly costs money. So who's going to pay for it is it
yeah,
becomes a question. So I think that I don't know if this was somebody's whim or a legitimate effort to try and bridge into X-Men, or we've got this property back but we can't do anything else with it, so let's do this.
yeah.
But you have to believe, like, if you look at where they were headed, like, we could hear all day long superhero fatigue, and
Hmm.
look at the upcoming movies, nothing's all that exciting. Like, does this say, oh wow, maybe we were thinking about this wrong, there's all these other things we can do. But the
Right.
other thing too is, like, they were fortunate to get the MCU over with mid Carters of the Avengers, and so they just got a world champion from another territory just showed up on their TV, and so now what do you do with that? So
Uh, I uh, I would like to think, and we've talked about this before about a lot of pop cultural types of things about, hey, we made Heroes. We had no idea how to finish that shit though.
mm-hmm,
Like it
mm-hmm,
became something popular, but we have no idea what to do with it now. I'm assuming that this was a part of a long-term plan, that they knew something that would come of this. Like if it freaking 3:45 tomorrow morning or whenever I get done watching this, if there's some like little tie-in to like a live action X-Men thing, I'm not going to work. Hey baby, I ain't coming to work no more. Take it easy. I, I'm not going to work. If they somehow tied something like that into whatever, that's it. Like I'm done, because they figured out the formula that they had figured out for a while that they
mm,
lost.
mm,
And again, I think I've said this before too. Like I think COVID was probably the best thing that could happen to the Marvel Studios, because it forced them to reset.
mm.
And now I think this is a byproduct of that. Like we're starting to see some of that stuff that
Yeah.
is more interconnected, and there's more of a thought and a plot and a plan of putting it together as opposed to just putting out content. And now this is your jumping point. These are your A-level stars here. The Avengers, you again, yeah, you got those mid carders over, but these are your main eventers, or the team as overall the franchise is your main event. Now, can you keep them at the top of the card without it being stale?
Mm.
And I think there's a danger of that, because those other movies were so bad. Like I don't know fully that the stink is off of those movies. I really don't. And so if there's a way to be able to keep them fresh in this way and then transition, or make there's a connect. I mean, there's obviously a connection already. We've seen it in what was that movie where they appeared,
In the
Beast and all.
Marvels.
Yeah, yeah, and that, I mean, so we know it's there. We know it's out there, but it's live action. But is there a way? I don't know. But this here, again, I couldn't. I couldn't think, and we've gone over this a bunch of times. Like, man, that freaking Earth's Mightiest Heroes, that's a really good ass cartoon. Watching Batman the Animated Series, yeah, that's a really good ass cartoon. The Justice League Unlimited, that's a really good ass cartoon. And they have multiple years of episodes, or at least more, the Avengers one, maybe not as many. This is, I'm like, it's only 10 episodes. This is really good.
Yeah.
I, and we are a skeptical bunch. If you ever listen to us before, it takes a while to get us to put shit over. Um, yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
excited, man.
This is
Uh,
amazing. Everyone I encounter, I'm like, you need to stop what you're doing. Like, why are
yeah,
you here? Go,
yeah,
just go watch
exactly.
like 97.
Yeah, I have a couple of dudes at work who I was like, "Oh, you didn't know this was a thing? Oh, yeah, you need to go binge, like hard. Like
Just
I don't understand. No, I
don't
watched
even
the
talk to me
original.
till you're done.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm not gonna say anything about it. It's out of respect, but you better figure this shit out quick. Yeah. So I'm ready, man. I'm
I've been
ready.
like running around wanting to scream, but they pulled his adamantium
Yeah,
out.
exactly. Exactly.
I'm like, "God, why haven't anybody watched this shit?"
So I'm ready. I'll be ready. Like I said, I usually try to get up, do whatever I got to do. 5 o'clock, sit there. I got about an hour and a half before I have to go to work, and everything that goes on in between of trying to get ready for that. So I'll be ready. I hold my text with y'all until I think y'all can watch it. People wake up late. I'm like, it's fine. I'll jump into the Twitter spoiler hashtag. It's sometime in the morning, but I'm excited. So this honestly, this reminds me of how we felt about House and Power. This really is.
Yeah.
We were like,
Yeah.
X-Men are kind of sucky right now, and then it reignited our love
Yeah.
for why we loved it.
Yeah, because they've
And
done the same thing. They've opened the world back up. They've
yeah,
opened the world up, and even the difference, I guess, is there's still room to rehash stories in
yeah,
the right way or in a good way with from this platform. Whereas, uh, with House of X, Powers of X, we were like, okay, yeah, this is great. We're at a great point. Where do we go from here? Turns out a
yeah,
long, winding, confusing path with some
yeah.
ups and mostly downs,
Mostly downs.
and
Yes.
impossible to follow. So yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. You're right. Our X-Men hype has not been at this level. I
Since
think this is it's higher. It's for me. It's higher than it was then because it
I
was
agree.
yeah.
Yes, I
Mm.
agree. All right. So we'll be back with the conclusion of this. I don't know if it's emergency pod situation,
Seven
but
thirty in the
yeah,
morning.
exactly. I'm driving to work, or maybe I'm not driving to work. I'm sitting at home in my drawers and eating cereal still. But we will come back with the conclusion. Again, we hope they stick the landing. It's been a problem with the Disney Plus stuff, but I got a little bit more faith in this one than I have in the past. All right. So as X-Men animated music plays us out on the podcast side, I'm producer. I'm signing off. Excelsior, man. Go ahead and sign off.
See ya.
Peace, everybody. We'll see you later.